Educational Communications and this station present Environmental Directions with Nancy Pearlman. On this series, we explore the effects of human influence on the Earth's ecosystems and discuss solutions to environmental problems which affect the quality of life on this planet. Environmental Directions gives you the kind of information you need to help you participate in decisions impacting your community, the nation, and the world. Now, here's your host, Nancy Pearlman.
Hello, my guest is Mark Cann. He is the founder and CEO and co-chief technology officer for CryomatiKs, a product development firm that uses the air we all breathe every single day to help power vehicles and other equipment. Mark also created the award-winning designs and wrote the patents that help to enable our wind-to-wheels and sun-to-wheels future. His company is also recipient of the Automotive Innovation of the Year Award. Welcome. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you very much, Nancy.
You are going to have to explain how we can take technology, combine it with air that we all breathe every day, and help with the acceleration to our zero-emission technology solutions.
Sure. So let's start with a couple analogies. So if you take water and chill it down, it turns into ice, right? And when you warm it up, it turns into steam. So the air that we all breathe, even though when we're breathing it, it's a gas, when you chill it down, it actually turns into a liquid. And this process requires energy. And the good thing is that most of that energy can be recuperated at a later time. So that allows the air that we breathe to work as a type of energy storage.
But where does this actually get applied? In other words, you're creating a cryo energy ecosystem. How do I use it in my house, or how does a company use it in their factory?
So first of all, liquid air itself has been around for about 120 years. So our entire ability to grow food and to store food and to keep it fresh is based entirely on liquid air. It just happens quietly behind the scenes. It's a very, very large industrial industry. Our solutions are building on top of what is already an established industry. What
does your product actually look like, and who would be buying it, and how would they be applying it?
Okay, so if you were to take a wind turbines are generally very, very large for economic reasons, as well as being able to capture as much energy as possible from the wind. And you take that wind turbine and you shrink it down until it's small enough that it fits into the palm of your hand. Now that turbine, it needs to spin very fast in order to produce power when it's that small. And so our designs optimize a very small wind turbine that spins very fast. And our core customers are actually not consumers. It's going to be people that operate delivery vehicles and other commercial vehicles.
Is it already in operation? You have applied for 2 patents, but are you able to sell this idea now, and can it be applied now?
So the patents themselves have already been granted. They're not just applications, they're already in use. We're doing the development work right now. We're actually working on a prototype delivery vehicle, similar size what you'd see for, say, FedEx or UPS making deliveries into residential areas and urban areas. So we're actually doing the development work right now. So as of today, nothing is for sale yet.
What is the process from when you get that liquefied air to when you make it available to another company to utilize in their product?
So what you would have is a commercial fleet operator, and again, our initial market is going to be delivery vehicles. They would have what is essentially the equivalent of a battery electric delivery vehicle. Now, we have what is a range extender, which will give that battery electric delivery vehicle the ability to operate at a farther range than it could do just for the battery itself. We have equipment that would be leased to that operator, as well as arranging for the liquid air to be delivered from a third party. And that's how we can enable fleet operators to partially run their fleets off of liquid air as opposed to diesel or something else.
How big is this range extender?
Depends on the power, but roughly speaking, about 2 cubic foot space and roughly 30 kilograms.
When do you expect more vehicles to be utilizing this technology?
Once we're able to establish the numbers with a few different fleet operators where they can see the economic value in it as well as the environmental value, then we can expect to see some additional companies adopt as well.
Where does this fit in with the goal to have more electric vehicles?
Sure. So we actually work as an accessory to existing electric vehicles, whether they already are powered by batteries or whether those fleets are being converted over. This is another zero-emission option to help switch fleets over because the rest of the drivetrain functions the same way as a battery electric vehicle.
If people want to see what this looks like, where do they go?
So if people want to visit www.cryoenergy.tech, that's where we'll be updating additional information.
And that's spelled CRYOENERGY.TECH.
Correct.
It's great that you are developing a product to have other products more energy efficient. But how clean is your whole operation? Are you polluting the air, the water? Are you buying recycled materials? What level of sustainability are you operating?
Well, one of the great things is that it functions primarily as a full cycle. So not only are we using air, we're not harvesting any raw material. So the same air that's liquefies and re-released and the process starts all over. You're removing contaminants in the process, so you're definitely cleaning the air in the process. And then the actual raw materials that are required for the equipment, which is for the most part stainless steel and a few others, those are already heavily recycled, over 90% recycled, just as industry standard practice. So for the most part, our end-to-end process is extremely scalable, it's extremely sustainable, and as wind and solar become more and more dominant, it will actually get cleaner and cleaner.
Do you have a lot of competition or other people doing the same thing?
Well, there's certainly a lot of different options for energy storage right now, and there are other companies that are utilizing liquid air technology. The great thing is that the energy market is so large that no one technology tends to dominate. You can go back, 100 years in history, and no one technology tends to control an entire market that's this large. But there's always going to be different use cases that are a better fit for different technologies.
You have been involved in product development for many years. How did you come across this idea? Why pursue this as opposed to some other ecological solution to our energy crisis?
Been around the automotive industry for a very long time. Happened to be involved with helping other companies bring their products to certain markets. One of the things that we are very big on is quality of life and making sure things that are affordable to other people. And there's various solutions that are out there now, and every solution has plus and minuses. You have to balance that out. We actually didn't start off just with air. We actually started off working more with LNG, which is liquefied natural gas. And it actually was over the course of several years that we were able to modify the design, change things around where we actually don't even need the natural gas at all. We can just use the air itself.
Something that always intrigues me is how an inventor comes up with an idea or how a researcher decides to find a solution to a common disease or how a creative person creates an art piece. I'm not very familiar with technology, so what's required in developing this product of yours?
So every design is really a combination of other designs. On one hand, what we're doing has been tried before, but on the other hand, there's components that are available today that change the numbers, change the economics, change the performance, and that allows us to create essentially a new version of an older design that exists. And so it's a bit like half treasure hunt, half putting together a puzzle, if you will, where you kind of have to take bits and pieces from other industries or things that have already been in use, and you have to kind of combine those and test and reiterate to come up with something that's creating value for people.
Isn't your competition the research and development arms of the automotive industry, of the wind industry, the people creating the product? Aren't they trying to develop what you have developed and do it better and cheaper?
Well, there's always someone that's going to try to do something better and cheaper, and that's actually a good thing. As far as us, we're actually more of an integrator. We're more of an enabler, so we don't see ourselves as directly competing with some of these other companies or their solutions. We actually kind of work with them. For example, we talk about wind to wheels and sun to wheels. So if you are a wind developer, they're always looking for consistent loads that they can match with their wind farms. And so you can take something that already exists, which is liquefying air, and that becomes a great match for the wind farm. And we can take it one step further and take that liquid air to power commercial vehicles, and now you win the wheels. And so that's why we consider ourselves actually enabling and accelerating other zero-emission technology, whether it's wind, sun, things like that, as opposed to competing.
But if you're liquefying air, are you not using energy? So how are you a zero-emission technology solution?
Well, like anything, it depends on what your source is. So if your source of energy for liquefying air is a coal plant, then it's not really zero emission. If your source of energy for liquefying air is wind farms and solar, then it is zero emission. So just like every use of energy, it depends on what your source is.
You are focusing on powering vehicles, powering wind turbines. What other kind of equipment can utilize this innovative technology that you are developing?
We don't do anything directly with wind turbines other than they're an input source for us. Our design is very similar to, say, a portable generator. And when it's used on a commercial vehicle, it functions as what's called a range extender. People that are familiar with the EVs are probably familiar with the concept of range extender, which it basically allows gives you additional energy capacity so that vehicle can drive further than what it would just in the battery pack. When it's used on the vehicle, it's considered a range extender, and then when it's used outside of the vehicle, it functions as a portable generator.
These kinds of technologies seem to be developed more in Scandinavia and in Europe than in the United States. Are you a leader here, or do you have competition overseas?
Well, there's quite a few companies that are commercializing liquid air. Right now, there's a very large liquid air energy storage system being built over in the UK. So there's other companies that are out there using the same technology, but they're on the completely other end of the spectrum. They're very large systems, they're stationary, they're inherently industrial, whereas we're focusing more on portable power because that's where the most value is.
You're focusing on what?
Portable power. So that would be vehicles, that would be the portable generators.
When do you expect this to be standard technology?
Adoption definitely takes time. So we start with the initial commercial fleets, so you can get information for your fleet operators so they can see what their operating cost is, what their upfront cost is going to be. But any adoption curve definitely takes time.
Who are the people who are working in your labs? What kind of training do they have? What are they actually doing if I saw them in the lab?
For the most part, these are thermomechanical designs. So people that have backgrounds in mechanical engineering, things like that are the type of people that we work with.
On what scale would you put this technology in terms of sustainability and ecological solution?
Well, as far as the raw material, it's just air. So, you can't run out of it. It can't be controlled by any third parties. One of the additional benefits of liquefying the air is it actually removes contaminants when it's being liquefied. In terms of the core materials, we don't have to harvest any materials from the ground, things like that. You can't run out of it. So then what you have to look at is what we call end-to-end. And that is, where does the energy come from to liquefy the air? And then what use case are you using to turn that liquid air back into work?
So you're just taking the air that's surrounding your factory?
Yeah. First off, we're not the ones that directly liquefy the air. There's already companies that do this. So we can simply purchase liquid air wholesale. So we don't have to do it directly ourselves. It actually comes from suppliers. But yes, literally any of the air, no matter where you're at on the planet, can be captured and liquefied anywhere.
And how much space does that take?
At the moment, this is strictly a industrial process. So those facilities, depends on the market, but facilities could be anywhere from a half a block to several blocks, but they're also servicing a very large area.
So you purchase liquefied air, and then what does your laboratory do with it?
On our end, we focus on converting liquid air back into work. So all our designs, what we do is on the best way to turn the energy that is now being stored by liquid air back into something that's valuable, which is usually the form of electricity.
This is absolutely fascinating that you're taking something that's out there and making a product that's going to hopefully get us closer to our zero emission technology goals and help solve our ecological pollution issues. I want to thank you so very much for developing this, presenting it to us, and for being my guest.
Thank you very much, Nancy.
I have been speaking with Mark Cann, who is the founder, CEO, and co-chief technology officer with CryomatiKs. I'm Nancy Perlman. Thank you very much for joining us, and do tune in again next week.
If you would like free information about these environmental issues, go to www.ecoprojects.org or call 310-559-9160. Environmental Directions with your host, Nancy Perlman, is a community affairs program of the nonprofit organization Educational Communications and this station.